Hello everyone. So today we have come to the end of the chapter moving charges and magnetism. So today we are going to discuss the important questions and the derivations which are frequently asked in the Karnataka State Board examination. So this chapter starts with Oyster's experiment. So before entering into this chapter, we knew that a static charge produces electric field around it, and also we knew that the charge which is in motion constitutes current. But we were unaware of the fact that a moving charge can also produce magnetic field. But Oyster, while performing his experiment, he conducted an experiment and he concluded that a current carrying conductor produces magnetic field around it. So that is how this chapter starts. Now if I have a charge, say the charge Q. So the charge Q is moving in the external magnetic field B. So this is how the charge is in motion, and this is the direction of the magnetic field. So we have the charge which is moving in the external magnetic field, then this charge would experience a force, and that force is given by the formula F is equal to Q into V cross B. Or if I expand this formula, I am going to get Q V B sine theta. Now the force acting on this charge which is moving in the magnetic field will be maximum. The force on the charge is maximum, which is equal to QVB, when sine theta becomes equal to 1. So when is sine theta equal to 1? When theta becomes equal to 90 degree. So the force on the charge will be maximum only when the charge is moving perpendicular to the magnetic field. And the force becomes minimum, that is equal to 0. So force should become 0, that means theta should be equal to 0 degree. The charge which is moving along the direction of magnetic field will experience 0 force. There is no force on the charge which is moving along the direction of the magnetic field. So these formulas will be asked for 1 marks. And also you should remember these things when the force is maximum and when it is minimum. And remember one more thing, whenever they ask you to write the formula, please do explain the terms. So you need to explain all the terms in that formula. So if I say F is equal to QVB sine theta, then you have to remember that you should explain the term QVB. What is Q? It is the charge of the particle. V is the velocity with which the particle is moving, and B is the magnetic field. So you have to explain the terms while they ask you to write the formula. Next, so we know that the force on the charge which is moving in the direction of the magnetic field will be 0. So whenever the charge is moving in the direction of the magnetic field, then the charge would trace a straight path, that is, it is going to move in a straight path without any deviation. Now if I say that the magnetic field and the motion of the charge are perpendicular to each other, then the charge is going to experience maximum force and it is going to take up a circular path. And next, if this is the magnetic field and the charge is moving with certain velocity, some velocity theta, then the path followed by the charge will be helix. Remember these trajectory of the charged particle which is under the influence of magnetic field. Now if the charged particle is moving under the influence of both electric and magnetic field, then the force is given by the formula F is equal to Q into E plus V cross B. This is a very important formula. This formula is called as Lorentz force. So what is Lorentz force? Is the net force acting on a charged particle which is moving in a region where both electric and magnetic field magnetic fields are present. So you should know what is Lorentz force and its formula. Next, if you have a current carrying conductor, let me say that the current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field. This is a current carrying conductor of certain length L and it is placed in a external magnetic field. Then what is the force acting on this current carrying conductor? That force is given by I into L cross B. Or if I expand this, F will be equal to ILB sin theta. Now you can also write when the force on this current carrying conductor is maximum and when it is minimum. So for the current carrying conductor, the force on the current carrying conductor to be maximum, that should be equal to ILB. That means theta should be equal to 90 degree. That is, the magnetic field and the length element of the current carrying conductor should be perpendicular to each other, or else the force to be equal to 0. That is, the force is minimum when theta is equal to 0 degree. In this chapter, we also studied a particle accelerator which is called as cyclotron. So the questions which will be asked in your examination on this topic cyclotron will be, what is cyclotron? You should draw the label diagram of a cyclotron, and the principle of the cyclotron is also important and its uses. And in 1 marks, they may also ask you to write the cyclotron frequency, which is very important formula, and the cyclotron frequency is given by F is equal to QB by 2 pi m. So remember this formula. Next, Biot-Savart law. This is one method of finding the magnetic field at some point around the current carrying conductor. So according to Biot-Savart's law, it states that the magnetic field at any point around the current carrying conductor will be proportional to I dl sin theta by r square. So according to the statement of Biot-Savart's law, it states that the magnitude of the magnetic field at a point P is directly proportional to the current flowing in the current carrying conductor. It is also directly proportional to the length element and also directly proportional to sin theta, and it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the point and the current carrying conductor. And this Biot-Savart's law is also called as Laplace law. It is also called as Laplace law, and this dB will be equal to mu naught by 4 pi, which is a constant, ideal sin theta by r square. And they may also ask you to write this formula in vector form. Then dB can be written as mu naught by 4 pi I dl cross r divided by r cube. This is how you are going to represent this formula in vector form. And one application of this Biot-Savart's law was being discussed, and I had already told you this derivation is very important, frequently asked in your examination for 5 marks. This is very important, and the formula was B is equal to, that is, we have found the magnetic field on a point on the axis of a circular current loop. So we have a circular current carrying loop, and we have drawn an axis, and on the axis I have marked a point P which is x distance away, and the radius of this circular loop is taken to be as capital R. Then what will be the magnetic field at this point? The magnetic field B at that point was found to be equal to mu naught by 4 pi 2 pi I r square by r square plus x square whole power 3 by 2. This derivation is very important in your examination. So the alternate method of finding the magnetic field is Ampere-Circuital law. The Ampere-Circuital law states that the closed line integral of the magnetic field is equal to mu naught times the current enclosed in that closed surface. And using this Ampere-Circuital law, we have derived 3 applications. The first one is magnetic field due to a long straight conductor. The magnetic field was found to be mu naught I by 2 pi r. And due to a solenoid, the magnetic field was derived to be equal to mu naught n I, and also for a toroid, the magnetic field was equal to mu naught n I. In case of solenoid and toroid, they'll ask what is solenoid, what is toroid, and they'll ask you to find the formulas for solenoid and toroid. Next, coming to the force between two parallel conductors. This derivation is again a 5 marks, very important derivation. So, in this case, we have two parallel current carrying conductors. So, parallel current carrying conductors is the current in these two conductors will be in the same direction. So, if I have a conductor, two conductors in which the current is I1 and I2, each conductor exerts a force on the other conductor. That is, see, the current in I1 exerts force on the second conductor which is having current I2, and vice versa. So, the magnetic field produced by the first conductor is due to the second one, and the magnetic field produced in the second conductor will be due to the first one, and the force per unit length in this case was equal to mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi d, where d is the distance between the two conductors. And in this derivation, you are going to derive this formula, and hence you are going to define what is ampere. So, the whole thing carries 5 marks. Next is torque on a current loop. So, if I am going to place a rectangular coil in an external magnetic field, that rectangular coil is going to experience torque, and that torque is given by tau is equal to m cross d, where m is the magnetic dipole moment and tau can also be written as mb sine theta. And the last thing which we have studied in this chapter is the moving coil galvanometer, which is a very sensitive device, and it is used to measure small currents and also the direction of the current in any circuit. This galvanometer can also be converted into ammeter and voltmeter. So, to convert this galvanometer into ammeter, we need to connect a very small resistance which is called as shunt resistance in parallel with the galvanometer, and a high resistance should be connected in series with the galvanometer to convert the galvanometer into voltmeter. Now, let us discuss how to find the direction of the magnetic field if I have a linear current. So, if this is the direction of the current, then I am going to use the right hand rule to find the direction of the magnetic field. So, according to right hand rule, this right hand rule is also called as right hand thumb rule, right hand screw rule, right hand curl rule, and if this is the direction of the current, I am going to place my thumb in the direction of the current, and we'll see in what direction the other fingers of my right hand are curling, and that will be the direction of the magnetic field. Whenever the current is linear, the magnetic field will be circular. So, here the magnetic field is this, where this is the direction of magnetic field, into, out, into, out. Now, let me take a case where the direction of current is reversed. Now, the direction of current is downwards, then the magnetic field will be in this direction, that is into and out. Say the conductor which you have considered is a circular conductor, then the magnetic field will be linear. So, in this case the magnetic field is linear, where I am going to curl my fingers in the direction of the current and my thumb indicates the direction of the magnetic field. And if I say the current is flowing in the clockwise direction, this is anti-clockwise, and here I have considered the clockwise direction, then I am going to say that the magnetic field is inwards. Here the magnetic field is perpendicular to the board and outwards. Here the magnetic field is perpendicular to the board and inwards. The circular current carrying conductor acts as a magnet, and then magnet should have a dipole. So, a circular current loop is considered to be as a dipole, and if the direction of the current is anti-clockwise, then we say that that pole is said to be north, and if the direction of the current is clockwise, then that pole is considered to be as the south pole. We also have discussed the right hand rule, in which we are going to stretch the thumb forefinger and middle finger of the right hand mutually perpendicular to each other, and if the charged particle is moving under the influence of magnetic field, then I can find the direction of the force by using this right hand rule, where I say that the middle finger represents the direction of the magnetic field, forefinger represents the direction in which the charge is moving, and the thumb represents the direction of the force. So we have also used the left hand rule to find the direction of the force in case of a current carrying conductor, in which we are going to stretch the thumb, forefinger and middle finger of the left hand mutually perpendicular to each other, where the middle finger represents the direction of the current and forefinger represents the direction of the magnetic field, and the thumb gives us the direction of the force. Now let us solve few problems from this chapter. So keep your calculators ready. I'll read out the first problem. A wire of length 0.26 meter is bent to form a circular loop. If 2 amp of current is flowing through this loop, calculate the magnetic field due to this loop at a point P, which is at a distance of 0.15 meter from its center on its axis. So this is the problem. Here they have said that there is a wire of length 0.26 meter, and this wire has been bent into a form of a circle. Now this length is nothing but the circumference of this circle. So 2 pi r will be equal to 0.26 meter. So current in this circular loop is 2 amp. A 2 amp of current is flowing in this circular loop, and you have to calculate the magnetic field at a point P. So if this is the circular loop, they have drawn an axis, and at some point P you have to find the magnetic field. This is where you have to find the magnetic field. And at what distance this P is placed? It is placed at a distance of 0.15 meter. So the distance between the center of the loop and the point P is taken to be as 0.15 meter. So x is equal to 0.15 meter. This distance is taken as x, then that will be equal to 0.15 meter. So we know from Biot-Savart's law, we have already derived a formula where B is equal to mu naught by 4 pi 2 pi I r square by r square plus x square whole power 3 by 2. Now let us use this formula and find out the magnetic field at the point P. So to use this formula, I need to know what is r. R is the radius of this circular loop, but I don't know what is r. To find r, I am going to just divide this by 2 pi. So 0.26 divided by 2 pi gives me 0.0414 meter. So this is the radius of that circular loop. Now let us substitute all these things. You already know the value of mu naught by 4 pi is 10 power minus 7 into 2 into value of pi is 3.14 into the current in this loop is 2 amp into 0.0414 whole square whole divided by r square is again 0.0414 plus whole square plus what is x? 0.15 whole square, and this whole power 3 by 2. This all the units are in meters, so I have straight away substituted the values. The magnetic field B will be equal to 2 to the 4 into 3.14 into 0.0414 into 0.0414, which will be equal to 0.0215 into 10 power. The 10 power minus 7 will be kept as it is, whole divided by, coming to the denominator, we have 0.0414 square. So that square will be equal to 0.00173 plus square of 0.15 is equal to 0.0225, and this is whole power 3 by 2. Now this will be equal to, if I just add the denominators, I am going to write the numerator as it is, 0.02153 into 10 power minus 7 divided by, let us add the denominator, 0.00173 plus 0.0225 is equal to 0.02423 whole power 3 by 2. Now this is equal to 0.02153 into 10 power minus 7 whole divided by. Now you can see here, this is whole power of 3 by 2. That is, it is the square root of this cube. So I can write it as this, square root of 0.02423 whole cube. Now you have to cube this and remove the square root. So if I do so, what is the answer I am going to get? 0.02423 into 0.02423 into 0.02423. I have cubed this and I am going to remove the square root. I will get 25153 into 10 power minus 7, the numerator as it is, divided by 0.00377.5 is what I am going to get. Now divide the numerator by the denominator, 0.02153 divided by 0.00377.5, which is equal to 5.7 into 10 power minus 7, and the unit for the magnetic field is Tesla. So this is the value of the magnetic field at the point P. Coming to the second problem, a galvanometer having coil of resistance 12 ohm gives full scale deflection for a current of 4 milliamp. How can it be converted into a voltmeter of range 0 to 24 volt? So we have a galvanometer which has to be converted into voltmeter. As you all know, the galvanometer can be converted into voltmeter by connecting a high resistance R. Say Rg is the resistance of this galvanometer. Then the galvanometer is converted into voltmeter by connecting it with a high resistance R. Now you have to find the value of R so that you can convert this galvanometer into voltmeter. Now what is the total resistance of this complete thing? So the total resistance of this device will be equal to Rg plus R, where Rg is the resistance in the galvanometer and R is the high resistor which I am going to connect here. So Rg plus R. Now the current which is flowing in this circuit will be equal to V by Rg plus R. Next I need to find what is R. So I am going to write this as Rg plus R is equal to V by Ig, or R is equal to V by Ig minus Rg. So this is the formula which I am going to use to find the value of this high resistance. So R is equal to, what is the voltage range they have given? 0 to 24 volt. So V is 24 divided by Ig. The current in the galvanometer is given to be 4 milliamp. Therefore this is 4 into 10 power minus 3. So if current is 4 milliamp, this M is nothing but milli. Milli is 10 power minus 3. Minus the resistance in the galvanometer. The resistance in the galvanometer is given to be 12 volt. So this minus 12. Now this is equal to 24 into 10 power 3. I have brought this 10 power minus 3 to the numerator. So this becomes 10 power plus 3 divided by 4 minus 12. Now let me divide 4 ones are 6 are. This is 6000 minus 12. And the resistance value which I am going to connect in series with the galvanometer is equal to 5988 ohm. So here we have completed this chapter, moving charges and magnetism. So this ends the session. Thank you.